My hands were steady as I slid the final bank statement into the clear plastic sleeve. The number at the bottom told the whole story. $347.21. That was all that remained of our $180,000 retirement fund. I placed the document carefully into the labeled binder, right between the receipts for designer jewelry and the screenshots of hotel charges. Everything was organized, color-coded, cross-referenced. They say you should never go to bed angry, but for the last 47 nights, I had gone to bed with a plan. Tonight, my husband Everett was finally going to learn that emptying our retirement savings was the second biggest mistake of his life. The first was underestimating me. I closed the binder with a soft click and allowed myself the smallest smile. The revenge I had planned was so perfect, so complete, that he would never see it coming until it was far too late. 14 years. That was how long Everett and I had been married. We met at a company mixer when I was 26, fresh out of graduate school, and eager to build a career in accounting. He was 30, working in sales, all charm and big smiles. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. Within 6 months, we were engaged. Within a year, married. Our life together was comfortable, predictable in the best way. I was the organized planner, the one who balanced the budget and scheduled our lives down to the minute. Everett was the dreamer, always talking about his next big idea, his next promotion, the life we would build together. We complemented each other perfectly. At least, that was what I believed for 13 years and 11 months. Our shared dream was the Lakeview Cabin Fund. We started it 3 years into our marriage, each contributing a portion of every paycheck. The goal was simple. Save enough to buy a small cabin by the lake where we could retire someday, away from the noise and stress of city life. It was Everett's idea originally, and I loved him for it. Every year, we would drive up to the lake region and walk through open houses, imagining our future. That one, he would say, pointing to a cottage with a wraparound porch. That's where we'll drink our morning coffee when we're 70. I would laugh and squeeze his hand, feeling grateful for a husband who planned our future with such care. The fund grew steadily over the years, reaching nearly $200,000 by our 14th anniversary. I checked it religiously every quarter, watching our dream inch closer to reality. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday in September. I noticed Everett had started keeping his phone face down on every surface. The kitchen counter, the coffee table, his nightstand, always face down. When I asked him about it casually, he shrugged and said he was trying to be more present and less distracted by notifications. It sounded reasonable enough. Then came the late nights at work. Everett had always been ambitious, but suddenly he was staying at the office until 9 or 10 at night, sometimes later. Big project, he would say vaguely when I asked. Lots of pressure from the boss. I believed him because I had no reason not to. We had built our marriage on trust. But small things kept accumulating like dust in corners. The way he would leave the room to take certain phone calls. The defensiveness when I asked simple questions about his day. One evening, I borrowed his car to run errands because mine was in the shop. When I slid into the driver's seat, I was hit by a wave of unfamiliar perfume. It was sweet and floral, nothing like anything I wore. My stomach dropped. When Everett came home that night, I mentioned it casually, watching his face. "Oh yeah," he said without missing a beat. "I gave Nancy from the office a ride to her car repair shop. She's very fragrant." He laughed, and I forced myself to laugh too. Nancy was his manager's assistant, older, married. It made sense. But the unease settled in my chest like a stone. Over the next few weeks, Everett became increasingly critical of our life. "Don't you think we're boring?" he asked one night over dinner. Same routine every week. Same conversations. I stared at him, hurt. "I thought you liked our life," I said quietly. He sighed dramatically. "I do. I just think we could use some excitement." I decided to create some excitement. Using a small portion of the Lakeview Fund, I booked a surprise weekend getaway to a charming bed and breakfast in the mountains. It was something we used to do when we were dating, and I thought it might reconnect us. I planned everything carefully. His favorite restaurant for dinner, a couple's massage, a morning hike to watch the sunrise. I was so excited to surprise him. On Friday evening, I presented the printed itinerary with a hopeful smile. Surprise! We're leaving in an hour. I already packed your bag. Everett's face did not light up with joy. Instead, his expression darkened with irritation. This weekend? Are you serious? He snapped. I have work stuff. You can't just spring this on me. My excitement crumbled. I thought you'd be happy, I said weakly. We haven't gotten away in months. He ran his hand through his hair, exasperated. We can't afford to just throw money around like this, Lyra. We need to be more fiscally responsible. Fiscally responsible. Everett had never used that phrase in 14 years of marriage. He was the one who bought expensive gadgets on impulse, who insisted on premium cable packages and the latest tech. I was the responsible one, the saver, the planner. Hearing those words from his mouth felt wrong, like hearing a cat bark. I canceled the reservation, losing the deposit, and we spent the weekend at home in uncomfortable silence. That Monday, I noticed something else strange. Everett was wearing a new watch, sleek and expensive looking. That's nice, I commented. When did you get that? He glanced at his wrist casually. Oh, this? It's a fake. My buddy got them wholesale from some guy in Chinatown. $20. I nodded, but something nagged at me. The watch looked real. Too real. Over the next 2 weeks, more new items appeared. Designer shoes, a leather wallet, cologne in a distinctive black bottle that cost over $200. I knew because I had priced it for his birthday once and decided it was too expensive. My anxiety was growing into something I could no longer ignore. One evening, while Everett was in the shower, I opened our shared banking app. We kept our regular checking and household bills in one joint account, which I monitored weekly. But I rarely looked at our shared savings account, the one that held emergency funds and overflow from the retirement account. When I scrolled to the savings balance, my blood went cold. It was lower. Significantly lower. I pulled up old statements from my email comparing. We should have had close to $35,000 in that account. Now it showed $18,000. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heart hammering. Where had $17,000 gone? When Everett came out of the bathroom, toweling his hair, I kept my voice calm. Hey, I was just checking the savings account. Did you move some money around? He froze for just a fraction of a second before his face smoothed into confusion. What are you talking about? I showed him the balance on my phone. He squinted at it, then shook his head with a patronizing smile. Lyra, you're probably just misremembering what was in there. We had some big expenses lately. Car repairs, insurance, remember? I did remember those expenses, but they had come from checking, not savings. I keep detailed records, Everett. The numbers don't match up. His expression shifted to something colder. Are you accusing me of something? The question hung in the air like a threat. I backed down, hating myself for it. No, I wanted to understand. He sighed heavily, as if I was being unreasonable. The market's been rough lately. Maybe some of our investments took hits and they balanced against savings. I don't know, Lyra. I'm not an accountant like you. The dismissal stung. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing, and felt a creeping dread I couldn't name. 2 weeks later, the dread crystallized into pure fear. It was a quarterly check-in day, the first Friday of December, when I always logged into our retirement portal to review our fund performance. I was alone in my home office, coffee in hand, ready for the routine review. I entered our username and my password. Error. Incorrect password. I frowned and tried again, more carefully this time. Same error. My pulse quickened. I clicked forgot password and waited for the reset email. It arrived seconds later, but not to my email address. The message said a reset link had been sent to everett.morrison.personal@gmail.com. I stared at the screen. Everett had a personal Gmail account I didn't know about. We had always shared everything. All our accounts, all our passwords, complete transparency. That was our agreement. Why did he have a secret email address? My hands shook as I closed my laptop. The next day was Saturday. Everett announced he was going to play golf with clients, an all-day affair. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I went to his home office. His desktop computer sat on the desk, and he never locked it because we don't keep secrets in this house. I woke the screen and opened his email browser. He was still logged in. My heart pounded as I scrolled through his inbox. There, 3 days ago, was the password reset email from our retirement fund portal. I clicked it, hands trembling, and created a new password. Then I logged into the retirement account. The page loaded slowly, each second an eternity. When the balance finally appeared, I thought I might be sick. $347.21. That was all that remained of our $180,000. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the desk, gasping for air. 14 years of careful saving, of sacrifice, of planning our future. Gone. I forced myself to breathe slowly and began scrolling through the transaction history. The withdrawals had started 6 months ago, in June. Small at first. 5,000 here, 3,000 there. Then they grew larger and more frequent. 10,000. 15,000. 25,000. All transferred to our joint checking account, which was then immediately withdrawn in cash, or spent on purchases I had never seen. My mind reeled. How had I not noticed? But I knew how. I only checked this account quarterly, and Everett had systematically drained it between my check-ins, covering his tracks by timing the transfers carefully. The last withdrawal had been just 8 days ago. $30,000 gone. I took screenshots of everything, my hands mechanical, my mind eerily calm. Then I cleared the browser history and shut down the computer. I walked upstairs on numb legs, went into our bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Later that afternoon, I was doing laundry, moving through the motions like a robot. When I reached for Everett's gym bag to wash his workout clothes, something fell out of the pocket. A receipt. I picked it up and read it. Davidson and Sterling Fine Jewelers. 1 diamond tennis bracelet, custom setting. $8,400. The date was 3 weeks ago. I stood in the laundry room, holding the receipt, feeling something crack open inside my chest. I did not own a diamond tennis bracelet. Everett had never bought me expensive jewelry. For our 10th anniversary, he gave me a necklace from a department store that cost maybe $300. I had loved it because it came from him. But $8,000 on a bracelet I had never seen? I already knew the truth, but my mind resisted it like fighting against drowning. Then I stopped fighting and let the truth wash over me. Everett was having an affair. I did not cry. That was the strangest part. I thought I would collapse, sob, scream. Instead, I felt cold, detached. Like I was watching my life from outside my body. I put the receipt in my pocket, finished the laundry, folded everything neatly and put it away. When Everett came home that evening, smelling like beer and sunscreen, I smiled at him. Good game. I asked. Great, he said, kissing my forehead absently. I'm exhausted though. Mind if I skip dinner and just crash? I told him I did not mind. I watched him walk upstairs, and I thought about 14 years of marriage. 14 years of trust and partnership and shared dreams. I thought about the retirement fund drained to nothing. I thought about the diamond bracelet on another woman's wrist. And I realized that the old Lyra, the trusting wife who believed in the goodness of her husband, had died somewhere between the laundry room and this moment. The person who remained was someone new, someone harder, someone who would not forgive, someone who would take everything back. That night, I could not sleep. At 2 a.m, I crept downstairs with my laptop and began researching divorce lawyers. I was methodical, reading reviews, comparing expertise, looking for someone who specialized in financial misconduct in marriage. I found a firm downtown with excellent ratings. Hartfield and Associates. The senior partner, Sylvia Hartfield, had a reputation for being ruthless in asset protection cases. Her tagline on the website read, "Protecting what you built." Perfect. At 8 a.m, I called their office and made an appointment for Monday. The receptionist sensed the urgency in my voice and squeezed me in during lunch hour. I thanked her and hung up, feeling the first stirrings of something other than numbness. It felt like power. For the rest of the weekend, I played the role of dutiful wife while mentally cataloging every detail I would need. account numbers, passwords, dates, receipts. I was building a case in my mind. Monday afternoon, I sat in Sylvia Hartfield's office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Sylvia was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I showed her everything. The retirement account balance, the transaction history, the jewelry receipt, the secret email address. I told her about the new clothes, the late nights, the personality changes. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me directly. Lyra, I'm going to be very honest with you. What your husband has done is not just betrayal. It's potentially criminal. He emptied a joint marital asset for personal use without your knowledge or consent. In this state, that gives us significant leverage. Her words were like cold water on my face, waking me fully. What do I do? I asked. She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator. You document everything. And you do not let him know you know. Sylvia laid out a strategy that would take weeks, maybe months. If you confront him now, he'll hide assets, delete evidence, prepare a defense. We need him to feel secure, to think he's gotten away with it. Meanwhile, you gather every piece of documentation possible. She gave me a list. Bank statements, credit card bills, phone records if I could access them, photographs of any unexplained purchases, records of his work schedule versus when he was actually home. Open your own bank account at a different bank, she instructed. Not online, go in person. Start redirecting your paycheck there. We need to protect your current income immediately. I nodded, absorbing everything. One more thing, Sylvia said, her expression serious. This is going to be hard. You're going to have to pretend everything is normal while watching him lie to your face. Can you do that? I thought about the retirement fund. I thought about 14 years of my life built on lies. Yes, I said. I can do that. That evening, I opened a checking account at Horizon Bank across town. I walked in during my lunch break, met with a banker named Gerald, and explained that I needed an account my husband would not have access to. Gerald was professional and asked no questions. Within an hour, I had a new account with only my name on it. I immediately updated my direct deposit information at work, routing my entire paycheck to the new account. Everett had never paid attention to my income anyway. He assumed it all went into our joint checking like always. I also began the painstaking process of documentation. Every night after Everett fell asleep, I would creep downstairs and photograph documents, download bank statements, screenshot transactions. I bought a small accordion folder and kept everything in my car, hidden under the spare tire in the trunk. I was meticulous. Every receipt, every date, every unexplained charge. I recorded it all. It was exhausting, living this double life. But every time I felt weak, I thought about that retirement balance, $347.21. 2 weeks into my secret investigation, I made a discovery that confirmed everything. Everett had been careless with his car again. I found a parking receipt from a downtown hotel, dated for a Tuesday afternoon when he claimed to be in back-to-back client meetings. The Hotel Grandview, room 614, 6-hour parking validation. My stomach churned, but my hands were steady as I photographed the receipt. That evening, I did something I never thought I would do. I looked through Everett's phone while he was in the shower. His passcode was our anniversary, and he had never changed it because he trusted me not to invade his privacy. The irony was bitter. I opened his messages and scrolled quickly, my heart racing. Most were boring work conversations, but then I found a thread with a contact saved only as A. The messages made me feel physically ill. Terms of endearment, plans to meet, complaints about her, meaning me. The most recent message, sent that morning. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear the bracelet. I took photos of everything and put his phone back exactly where I found it. I now knew her name was Arden. A little more digging through social media, cross-referencing Everett's coworkers and recent follows, led me to her profile. Arden Sinclair, 29 years old, worked in marketing at a firm 2 blocks from Everett's office. Her Instagram was public and filled with photos of expensive dinners, designer handbags, luxury weekend trips. Many of the locations matched the mysterious charges on our credit card that Everett had explained away as client entertainment. In one photo from 3 weeks ago, I could clearly see the diamond tennis bracelet glittering on her wrist. The caption read, "Feeling spoiled by the best man I know." The comments were full of heart emojis from her friends. I stared at that photo for a long time, zooming in on the bracelet, my retirement fund, wrapped around her wrist, and felt my resolve harden into steel. Sylvia had told me not to confront him yet, to wait until we had built an airtight case. So I waited. But I was no longer sad. I was calculating. 3 weeks into Operation Quiet Exit, that was what Sylvia and I called it, I made another crucial move. I hired a private investigator named Desmond through Sylvia's recommendation. Desmond was ex-police, discreet, and efficient. For 2 weeks he followed Everett, documenting his movements with timestamps and photographs. The results came back damning. Everett was meeting Arden 3 to 4 times per week, always at the Hotel Grandview, always during hours he claimed to be working. Desmond provided me with a detailed report, complete with photos of them entering the hotel together, emerging hours later, kissing in parking garages. There was even video footage of Everett handing Arden a small wrapped box outside a restaurant. Jewelry, no doubt, purchased with what remained of our joint funds. The evidence was ironclad. But there was more. Desmond discovered that Everett had been frequenting a casino an hour outside the city. He had racked up significant gambling debts, at least $40,000, which explained some of the more desperate withdrawals from our retirement fund. The picture was complete now. A fair gambling theft. Everett had not just betrayed me. He had destroyed our entire financial future to fund his double life. With all the evidence compiled, Sylvia and I began preparing the divorce filing. She recommended I make one final move before we served him papers. Secure any remaining assets in my name alone. I took a day off work and went to our bank. Using joint account authority, I transferred the remaining balance from our shared savings, about $15,000, into my new private account. Technically, it was my legal right as a joint account holder, but I knew Everett would explode when he found out. I did not care anymore. I also went to our safe deposit box and removed my grandmother's jewelry, which was worth approximately $20,000, along with the title to my car and my important documents. Everything that was mine by right, I secured. I was protecting myself now. That evening, Everett came home in a good mood, whistling. He kissed my cheek and asked what was for dinner. I told him I made lasagna, his favorite. We ate together like we had for 14 years, making small talk about work and the weather. He had no idea that in my purse, on the chair beside me, were divorce papers ready to be filed. He had no idea his entire world was about to implode. And I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The next morning, I filed for divorce. Sylvia submitted the paperwork to the court, along with a motion for an emergency hearing due to the evidence of asset dissipation. Within 48 hours, Everett was served with papers at his office. I was not home when it happened. I had deliberately scheduled a full day of meetings at work, knowing I could not face his initial reaction. Sylvia warned me he would call, text, and probably show up at my workplace. She was right. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic text messages. What the hell is this? Call me now. You can't be serious. We need to talk about this. I did not respond to any of them. At 5 o'clock, I finally turned my phone back on and listened to his voicemails. The first few were angry, demanding. But by the last message, his tone had shifted to pleading. Lyra, please. I don't understand what's happening. Can we just talk? I love you. I deleted every message without a second thought. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Not because I was afraid of Everett, but because I could not stomach the thought of being in the same house with him. I had taken the essentials and moved them to a storage unit earlier in the week. The hotel room was small and impersonal, but it was mine. I ordered room service, opened my laptop, and reviewed all the documentation one final time. Sylvia had warned me that Everett would likely hire his own lawyer, and they would try to paint me as the unreasonable party. They would say I overreacted, that I emptied accounts out of spite, that the marriage could be saved with counseling. I needed to be prepared for that narrative, but I had something they did not. The truth, backed by irrefutable evidence. Every transaction, every lie, every hotel receipt, every photo of him with Arden. It was all organized in color-coded binders, cross-referenced and ready to present. I had built my case the way I built everything in my life. Carefully, thoroughly, and with no room for error. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. During that time, Everett tried everything to reach me. He showed up at my workplace, forcing security to escort him out. He called my mother, who called me in tears begging me to reconsider. He sent flowers to my office with cards that said, "I'm sorry, and please forgive me." Each gesture felt like an insult. Sorry for what, exactly? For stealing our retirement? For the affair? For the lies? He never specified and I never asked. I ignored everything. Sylvia coached me through this period, reminding me to document every contact attempt, every violation of space. He's panicking, she explained. That's good for us. Desperate people make mistakes. She was right. Through mutual friends, I learned that Everett had confessed everything to his family, painting himself as a man who made mistakes but still loved his wife. His mother called me, crying, asking me to give him another chance. I politely declined and blocked her number. I was done being the understanding wife. On the morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully in a navy suit, pulled my hair back in a neat bun, and applied minimal makeup. I wanted to look composed, professional, unshakable. Sylvia met me outside the courthouse, carrying 3 thick binders of evidence. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded. Inside the courtroom, I saw Everett for the first time in weeks. He looked terrible, unshaven, his suit wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. His lawyer, a middle-aged man named Roger Kemp, sat beside him looking far too confident for what was about to happen. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Warren, called the hearing to order. Roger stood first, presenting Everett's side. He painted me as a controlling, vengeful wife who had overreacted to normal marital friction. He claimed I had emptied joint accounts without cause and filed for divorce impulsively. "My client is willing to attend counseling," Roger said smoothly. "He wants to save this marriage." It was a decent performance. But then Sylvia stood. Sylvia opened the first binder and began systematically dismantling every claim Roger had made. She presented the retirement account transaction history, showing the methodical theft over 6 months. She showed the jewelry receipt for the bracelet I had never received. She presented photographs of Everett and Arden together, time-stamped and dated. She showed hotel receipts, credit card statements for dinners I had not attended, and casino records showing $40,000 in gambling losses. With each piece of evidence, I watched Everett sink lower in his chair. His lawyer's confident expression crumbled. Judge Warren's face grew harder. The courtroom was absolutely silent except for Sylvia's calm, measured voice. "Your Honor," she concluded, "this is not a case of marital friction or impulsive decisions. This is a case of systematic financial abuse and fraud. My client trusted her husband with their shared future, and he liquidated it to fund an affair and gambling addiction. She is owed restitution, spousal support, and her rightful share of all marital assets." Judge Warren looked at Everett with open disgust. "Mr. Morrison, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Everett stood slowly. His voice shook. "I made terrible mistakes. I'm sorry." That was all he could manage. Judge Warren's ruling was swift and brutal. She granted the divorce, awarded me 70% of all remaining marital assets, ordered Everett to pay spousal support for 5 years, and mandated that he repay half of the retirement fund he had stolen, approximately $90,000, from his future earnings. She also ordered him to cover all my legal fees. "Mr. Morrison," she said coldly, "you are fortunate your wife chose civil court. What you did borders on criminal theft. I suggest you reflect seriously on your choices." The gavel came down. It was over. I walked out of that courtroom with Sylvia beside me, my head high, feeling something I had not felt in months, free. In the hallway, Everett tried to approach me, his eyes red. Lyra, please. I held up a hand. We have nothing to discuss. Your lawyer has my lawyer's contact information. Do not contact me again. I walked away and never looked back. The aftermath was swift and comprehensive. Within a week, I learned through mutual friends that Arden had left Everett the moment she discovered he was broke and facing financial ruin. She had blocked his number and moved on to her next target without a backward glance. The diamond bracelet was probably in her jewelry box, a trophy from a conquest. Everett lost his job shortly after. Not because of the divorce, but because his gambling debts had led him to embezzle from his company. His boss filed charges, and Everett was facing criminal prosecution on top of everything else. His fall from grace was total and public. People we had known for years reached out to me with support, horror, and apologies for not seeing the signs sooner. I accepted their kindness, but kept most people at arm's length. I was rebuilding myself, and that required space. 1 year later, I sat in my new home office, sunlight streaming through the windows of my small but perfect condo. I had taken the settlement money and invested it wisely, rebuilding what Everett had destroyed. I had also started a blog about financial independence and recovering from financial abuse. It had gained a modest following, and the messages I received from readers kept me going on hard days. That morning, I read a comment from a woman who said my story had given her the courage to leave her own financially abusive marriage. I typed a response, offering encouragement and resources, and felt a deep sense of purpose. My phone buzzed with a notification. An offer had been accepted. I clicked on it and smiled. It was the lakefront property, a small cabin with a wraparound porch, the one Everett and I used to dream about. But I had bought it alone, with money I had saved and protected myself. The dream was still real. It was just mine now, and that made it so much sweeter. I looked at the framed photo on my desk, not of Everett but of me standing in front of my new cabin, arms spread wide, grinning at the camera. I had not just survived. I had won.